Could a private estate belonging to the late Queen really end up in the hands of a granddaughter known for staying out of the spotlight? That is a question swirling around recent headlines involving Lady Louise Windsor, and it deserves a careful fact-checked answer rather than a sensational one. Reports claiming she has claimed royal land and that Camilla's relatives are furious over a hidden inheritance have circulated widely online in recent weeks. Yet when we examine what has actually been documented by credible royal correspondents, biographers, and official statements, a very different picture emerges. This is not a story about secret land grabs or family warfare. It is a story about how royal inheritance actually works, how private wealth passes to the House of Windsor, and why Lady Louise's quiet life makes her an unlikely figure for scandal. To understand what is really happening, we need to look at the fact behind the headline, not the headline itself. Lady Louise Windsor was born in November 2003, the elder child of Prince Edward, now the Duke of Edinburgh, and Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. From the very beginning, her parents made a decision that would shape her public image for the rest of her life. Unlike many of her royal cousins, Louise and her younger brother James were raised with deliberate emphasis on privacy and normalcy. Biographers and royal historians, including those who have written extensively about the modern monarchy, have noted that Edward and Sophie chose not to use HRH styles for their children in daily life, opting instead for the titles Lady Louise Windsor and, until his 18th birthday, Viscount Severn for James. This decision, made with the late Queen's blessing, was widely reported at the time as an attempt to give the children space to live outside constant media scrutiny. It worked, largely. Louise attended a state secondary school, studied at St. Andrews University, and even took on a retail job at a Range Rover dealership, details that were confirmed through legitimate press coverage rather than rumor. Given this well-documented pattern of low-key upbringing, the sudden claim that Louise is now embroiled in a dramatic inheritance dispute over one of the Queen's private estates deserves scrutiny. To understand why such a claim is misleading, it helps to first clarify what exactly the late Queen's private estates were, because this distinction matters enormously. The British monarchy operates through several separate financial structures, and conflating them is one of the most common sources of confusion in royal reporting. The Crown Estate, valued at billions of pounds, is not personally owned by the monarch at all. It is held in trust with the nation, and its profits fund the Sovereign Grant, which supports official royal duties. The Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall are separate private estates tied to specific roles, the monarch and the heir apparent respectively, and their income is distinct from personal wealth. Then there are Sandringham and Balmoral, which are genuinely private properties owned outright by the monarch as an individual, passed down through personal inheritance rather than constitutional arrangement. It is this last category, Sandringham and Balmoral, that tabloid headlines often reference when discussing the Queen's private estate. These two properties were inherited by King Charles III directly upon his mother's death in September 2022, a transition confirmed through official channels and widely reported by outlets including the BBC and Reuters. Crucially, this transfer occurred under a long-standing arrangement dating back to 1993, when Queen Elizabeth II and then Prime Minister John Major agreed that sovereign-to-sovereign inheritance of private assets would be exempt from the usual 40% inheritance tax applied to estates in the United Kingdom. This arrangement was designed specifically to prevent royal properties from being broken up or sold off to cover tax liabilities each time the crown passed to a new monarch. It has nothing to do with grandchildren, nieces, or extended family members making claims. The line of inheritance for these private estates runs directly from monarch to monarch, not laterally across the family tree. So where does Lady Louise fit into this picture at all? Public records and credible reporting offer no indication that she has made any legal or public claim to Sandringham, Balmoral, or any other private royal property. There is no court filing, no palace statement, and no verified biography suggesting such an action has taken place. What may be fueling this rumor is something far more mundane, and arguably more touching than a scandal. During her lifetime, Queen Elizabeth II was known to have a particularly close bond with her younger grandchildren, including Louise and James, often spending time with them privately at Balmoral during summer holidays. Royal author Ingrid Seward, who has written extensively about the Queen's family relationships, has documented this closeness in her published works, describing how the Queen enjoyed a relaxed, almost grandmotherly rapport with Edward's children away from the formality of public duties. This documented affection, however, is entirely separate from any legal inheritance of property, and conflating emotional closeness with financial claims is a common but misleading tactic in sensationalized coverage. Turning now to the second half of the headline. The suggestion that Camilla's family is furious over the supposed inheritance similarly lacks any grounding in verified reporting. Queen Camilla's immediate family includes her children from her first marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez, along with her siblings and their families. None of these individuals have any documented legal or blood-based claim to the late Queen Elizabeth's private estates, because inheritance of Sandringham and Balmoral follows the sovereign line, not Camilla's personal family tree. Camilla herself, as queen consort and now queen, does not personally inherit these properties either. They belong to Charles as the reigning monarch. There is no public record, court document, or statement from Clarence House or Buckingham Palace, indicating any dispute, fury, or grievance from the Parker Bowles or Shan families regarding royal property. This part of the claim appears to be entirely fabricated for the purpose of generating clicks, a pattern that media literacy experts have increasingly warned about when it comes to royal family content online. It is worth pausing here to consider why these kinds of stories gain traction so easily. The British monarchy's finances are notoriously opaque in certain respects. Wills belonging to senior royals, for instance, have been sealed by court order for decades, a practice reaffirmed in a significant 2022 High Court ruling involving the Attorney General and the BBC, which determined that the wills of senior working royals would remain sealed for 90 years to protect the dignity of the sovereign. This secrecy, while legally justified on privacy grounds, creates an information vacuum that speculation naturally rushes to fill. When the public cannot see exactly how royal wealth is distributed, rumors about hidden claims and family feuds become almost inevitable, regardless of whether any factual basis exists. Royal correspondents like Robert Hartman, whose biography of King Charles III offers detailed insight into the modern monarchy's financial structures, have noted that this lack of transparency, while historically consistent, increasingly clashes with public expectations of accountability from an institution funded partly by taxpayers. Lady Louise herself has continued to build a life defined by understatement rather than controversy. She stepped into a more visible public role following her grandmother's death, notably walking behind the coffin during the funeral procession alongside her brother, a moment widely covered by international media as a mark of her quiet dignity during a period of national mourning. Since then, she has occasionally accompanied her parents on official engagements, but she has resisted the kind of high-profile media presence associated with other members of her generation within the family. This pattern strongly contradicts the notion that she would suddenly pursue a public legal claim over royal property, an action that would be entirely out of step with everything publicly known about her character and upbringing. Biographers who have covered the Wessex family, now the Edinburgh family following Edward's elevation to Duke of Edinburgh in 2023, consistently describe Louise as reserved, focused on her studies and personal interests, including carriage driving, a pursuit she shared closely with her grandmother. What this story ultimately reveals is less about hidden palace drama and more about the gap between how royal inheritance actually functions and how it is often portrayed for entertainment purposes online. The mechanisms governing Sandringham, Balmoral, and the broader royal finances are matters of established law and historical precedent, not personal ambition or family conflict. Lady Louise's life, as documented through legitimate reporting, reflects continuity with the values her parents instilled from birth: privacy, education, and service without spectacle. Camilla's family, similarly, has shown no public indication of grievance over matters that were never legally theirs to claim in the first place. As the monarchy continues to navigate its evolving relationship with public transparency under King Charles III, stories like this remind us how easily fact and fiction blur.